Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or on the streaming apps of those two fine radio stations, which are free to download, free to use, and sponsored by Diversus Health, mental health and well-being for all. Of course, you could also watch the show this or any day, anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR at Extra Sports 1300. A veritable cornucopia of sports topics await you, and I'd love to get your thoughts at 719-24-7 1313. You could call or text it in. Producer Ray standing by. Here's my thought about last night regarding game one between the Avalanche and the Minnesota Wild. I think that the Avs were all ready to play another game just like the four they played against LA. I think they were ready to commit to the checking game, ready to commit to the little details that won them that series. And then they scored 3 goals in 2 minutes. And then all bets were off. They were like your kid the first time you take them to the gift shop at Disneyland. Like you tell them, hey, you're going to get one thing. That's it. And then they go in there and then they're grabbing everything off the shelves and they're out of control. That's what the Avs were because they had been kind of pent up a little bit over the last 4 games. And once the opportunity was there for them to score goals, they just kept scoring goals and did not stop. Here's Jared Bednar trying to explain what it is that happened last night.
I cannot. Yeah, I mean, if you scripted that one, then you I don't know how you do. Yeah, I can't explain it.
I will try to explain it. Again, I think the Avs had a lot of pent-up energy after the Kings series. Energy to get out and spread their wings and fly around the ice and get a ton of pucks to the net and play the brand of hockey that they so enjoy playing the most. And maybe they were a little bit more frustrated than maybe they let on. I mean, who wants to... I don't even know that the LA Kings like to play the way that the LA Kings play hockey. Like, I think every team aspires to play the game as fast and free and loose as the Colorado Avalanche do and just score goals for fun. But there's a practicality to it that maybe no one in the league does it better than the Avs. So you would be wise to not get in a shootout with them if you're going to look to win games, especially in the postseason. But in doing that and being free to attack and free to fly around the ice, Minnesota wasn't taking away a lot of time and space. The Avs just completely forgot about all of their defensive duties. On the forecheck, in the neutral zone, defending their own net, all of that went out the window. And they just said, we're going to outscore this team. And I will say that the final product was fun. I mean, so fun, it was kind of exhausting. That 4-game series with LA, it was a slog. It was the type of series that you could only love if you are a true sicko hockey fan, appreciating the type of game that we see in the Stanley Cup playoffs. Last night was fun for everybody. Last night is if you got a buddy or a partner that you're trying to get into hockey, you show them that game. My youngest son, who is not really into hockey, I made a point this morning when he woke up to say, you missed out. 15 goals were scored in the game. So it's the type of game that you try to get people in on hockey, and then you kind of in the Stanley Cup playoffs do the old switcheroo, the old bait and switch. And you're like, no, most of these games are actually tight checking and low scoring. Most of these games are like the Tampa Montreal game right before Colorado played. 2-1. Or in game 6, 1-0 in overtime. And then you hope that they just stick around, because it does make nights like last night all the more fun. Now, I expected Jared Bednar to come out after the game, and he doesn't use the word hate. He says, you notice when Jared Bednar, when his team doesn't play well, he says, I didn't love it. That's as scathing as Jared Bednar will be. As incendiary of speech that he will use. Didn't love it. But Jared Bednar actually didn't love it as much as I thought he would.
It's not that we weren't emotionally engaged in the game and physically engaged in the game, because I think we were, but not enough on the defensive side. We were on the offensive side. Forecheck looked good. We did some good things. But like when it came to the defending, I feel like we forgot a little bit just how hard we need to work to be good defensively. You know, like we were easy in some areas and loose on some gaps and late a few times, and they play hard offensively. They're a dynamic team and they have skill.
But what you hope is like your kid in the Disney gift shop. You hope buying them everything they wanted, them getting everything they wanted, makes them satisfied. I got a bunch of stuff. I'm good. I'm going to behave the rest of the trip. Now, I don't know about you. With my kids, that never happens. As much as I try, and I try every single time, doesn't work. But the Avalanche are a bunch of responsible adults. They know what it takes to win this time of year. And I think that game was kind of a good one to get out of the system. It'll make it easier for them to get back to the tight checking, defensive-oriented game in game 2 that compares to what we saw in the LA series. But I do think with game 1, and we always look at game 1 as kind of the tone setter for the series. I don't think it's a tone setter in terms of, you know, that's how every game of this series is going to be played. We may get one more. We're not getting 9-6 the rest of the way. I'll guarantee you that. But could we get a more wide open, high scoring game at some point in this series? Yes. It's not game 2. Game 2 is going to be 1-0. I just want you to know that. But the tone that I think the Avalanche kind of set with a performance like that is not dissimilar from the one they set against LA. It's the, how do you want us to do this? Because we could beat you either way. You know, with the LA series, is like, okay, you want to come out, you want to be tight checking, low scoring. We'll beat you that way. We're comfortable playing that way. If Minnesota is going to be this unserious about the way they defend the Colorado Avalanche, and I know having Eck out is a tough one for them. He's their best, you know, defensive forward, and he's going to be out for game 2 as well. Let's not, you know, talk about, ignore that, I guess. That's a significant loss. But if Minnesota is going to be that unserious defending the firepower of the Colorado Avalanche, I'll take the Avs in a game like that last night 10 times out of 10. The higher scoring these games are, the more it favors Colorado. That's not how Minnesota wants to play in this series, and they know it. They are here in this round because their 5-on-5 defense against Dallas was superb. The only situations that Dallas beat them in that series was on the power play. And so Minnesota has to come into this series thinking, all right, if we play defensively 5-on-5 the way we did against Dallas, this Avs team doesn't present us as much of a problem on the power play. So I can see why Minnesota coming into this series convinced themselves they'll win. I mean, there's a blueprint there. There's a formula there. They just didn't show it at all last night. These first 5 games of the playoffs, the 4 against LA, the 1 last night, they show you why the Avalanche are the favorite, and they show you why they are so scary. Because there is not a style of play that they can't play. There's not a style they're not comfortable. They will beat you at their game, and they will beat you at your game. What you have to do if you're an opponent is just like LA did, and I give them credit for this. They played their game, and they played it well. They just don't have the horses to compete with the Avs. Minnesota has some of those. Right? Kaprizov, Hughes. This is a good hockey team. This is a much better hockey team than LA. But they still have to play their game. Their defense first. They want to limit what the Avs can do attacking and then try to pick their spots on the other end of the ice to get some timely goals. It's not that much different than LA. It's just Minnesota has the ability to generate more offense than LA does. But that's what Minnesota is going to be banking on. They didn't show it last night, but that's what, as we talk about the series in totality, that's what it's going to be. Minnesota is going to get back to their defensive game, and they're going to try and make it a little ugly. Because they can't, even with Quinn Hughes, even with Kirill Kaprizov, just player for player, and I think there's no situation last night that underscores what I'm talking about more than the way the fourth line played. Like, the Avs, they could just roll through all 4 of their lines. Minnesota doesn't have that kind of depth, but they do have plenty of players that can hurt you. And I mean, they got 6 different goal scorers, so they kind of showed that last night. It was a fun catharsis, if you're an Avs fan, after the LA series. I'm sure it was fun for the Colorado Avalanche, and I don't know how fun it was for Minnesota. At times, it was probably quite enjoyable, but I think Minnesota knew all along that this is not the type of game we want to be in. They just couldn't. They were just not at that game. Once they erased the 3-goal deficit, it's like, this is the way it's going to be played. We just got to live with it. But while I expect Minnesota to get back to a more defensive-oriented game, the Avs are going to too. Cale Makar talked about it. Don't expect a game like that at any time the rest of the way. And as Devon Taves explains, this team has plenty of experience being able to get back to their defensive principles in order to play playoff hockey.
I mean, we did it for 82 games, and 4 games in that LA series have been a really stingy defensive team. And tonight it got a little bit loose, and we were able to score enough goals to win the game. But we pride ourselves too much on being a really hard team to play against in our own zone. And tonight that wasn't necessarily the case. At times it was, and sometimes it wasn't there. So it's on us to tighten that up.
They did give up the fewest goals in the league this year. I know it's just one of the things you have to keep reminding people, because the Avs scoring the most goals, nobody is surprised by that. And that becomes who the Avs are. Don't forget that the Avs gave up the fewest goals of any team in the NHL this year. Minnesota will get back to its defensive game. So will the Avs, and we'll lock in for a long and hard-fought series between two incredibly talented teams. But what a way to start the series, if nothing else. Get in here with your Game 1 takeaway, 719-24-7-1313. Just getting going on this Monday on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Mother's Day is coming up on May 10th. That is this Sunday. Winter pearls from Louisa Graff Jewelers, a sterling silver freshwater pearl strand and earring set, a $298 value. Sign up to win at extrasports1300.com or kvor.com. We will draw and contact the winner on Friday, so like Thursday night. Got to get those entries in. Extrasports1300.com or kvor.com. Avs take game one 9-6 as we all expected it to be. Your thoughts at 719-247-1313. Producer Ray, what do we have on the text line?
From Albert. If you said on Friday the Avs would play Minnesota to a 3-2 first and a 9-6 final, at one point in the second be down a goal, no one would have believed you. Everyone talks about the Wild skill and speed, but the Avs prove they are faster. Hughes showed his wheels and pivots, but he got beat to the post to give up a goal also.
Why are you reading our text line like you're reading to a child,
You know
children's
what?
book?
I think it's my headphones. I think it's yeah. I'm trying to understand it for myself. So,
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, nobody would have, no one saw 9-6 coming, but the Quinn Hughes thing leads me perfectly into what I want to discuss next, which is the defenseman and that matchup in particular with Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes. Quinn Hughes is really talented, as Albert pointed out. Like, Quinn Hughes was a problem for large stretches of that hockey game. But what separates Cale Makar and Quinn Hughes, I think, is the work that Cale puts in on the defensive end. And Cale's ability, even with limited ice time. In fact, last night was the least amount of ice time he's had in a playoff game since he first joined the Colorado Avalanche. And I don't think it's a coincidence that with Cale Makar not being on the ice as much as we are accustomed to seeing him, that the Minnesota Wild had as much success as they had. I don't think that's a coincidence. It's one of the more underrated, it's the most underrated thing about Cale Makar's game. He is a good defensive defenseman. And with the injury that the Avs already have with Josh Manson, more on that momentarily, they were already rotating defensemen. And then you have Cale Makar out for a significant chunk of that game. The Avs just can't, even if they wanted to, which I don't know if they truly wanted to play a more defensive-oriented type checking game, but they wouldn't even really been able to if they wanted to. And could you have imagined, to stick with that line of thinking, if the biggest individual matchup going in to this series was Quinn Hughes against Cale Makar, and that would be out the window, 5 minutes into the game? Now, when Cale Makar was put into the glass by Marcus Foligno, and we have to make sure we qualify which Foligno we're talking about. When he left the game, I'm like, you know what? He'll probably come back, right? He's a hockey player, right? That old saying. But then when he came back, and then during like a TV timeout, took the ice and skated around, and then went immediately back to the bench. I think it was Brian Boucher on the TNT broadcast. I echoed his same sentiments. I'm like, uh-oh. That's not good. And then we didn't see Cale Makar for a while. But he did eventually make his way back into the game. And when he did, he made a profound impact, scoring his 2 goals, the only player in last night's game that was able to find the back of the net twice, and he did it in the third period that going into it was a 5-5 score. So we could talk about the sheer skill of Cale Makar. And even in 17 minutes of ice time or whatever it was, the fact that he was able to make a huge impact on the game in a relatively short amount of time. But this is why he's the best at what he does. This is why it's Cale Makar 1. And then if you would like Quinn Hughes to be 2, that's fine. But it is definitely Cale Makar first. Let's not forget when the Avalanche won a Stanley Cup, Cale Makar was deemed the best player in those playoffs. He has that big game, that clutch gene in him as well, and his team needed it. They needed him to come through, and he did in a big way in that third period. Here's Cale Makar on the craziness of him leaving the game and coming back and ultimately scoring 2 of the biggest goals of the game.
Yeah, it was a weird one. It's kind of tough to get into rhythm sometimes, especially when you miss that time and try and get back into it. But felt like we did a good job of that. It's just such a weird game in terms of the flow of it. But yeah, obviously you don't want to miss that time, but is what it is.
Cale Makar, when he gets enshrined into Toronto, is going to have his "It Is What It Is" on his plaque. That dude says it is what it is more than anybody else. I think ultimately what it was, because Jared Bednar said today that Cale's going to be good, which is a weight off of Avs fans' shoulders. I think it was just so awkward the way he was hit into the glass and the way he fell down. I think it was kind of a shock to his system. I'm not saying he wasn't legitimately hurt, but I just think the whole sequence was so awkward that I think he needed some time and for his body to kind of get back to where it needed to be. And boy, was it in that third period. But you also saw the skill of Quinn Hughes and what Minnesota is banking on and what it has shown to be so far is that Quinn Hughes is like what Aaron Gordon was to the Nuggets in 2021. Took a good team, had a lot of quality players, but just felt like they were missing something. They add in a player like Quinn Hughes, and now it amplifies everyone else. And now Minnesota, and this is something that the players and Jared Bednar alike have talked a lot about when it comes to the comparisons between the LA Kings and Minnesota Wild. With the LA Kings, you don't really have to worry about their blue line, at least when you're defending, right? They don't work through them a lot. There isn't anybody that you get overly worried about. You know, there was a time Drew Doughty was that guy, but, you know, Father Time. But Minnesota with Quinn Hughes, they can run their offense through him. Similar to the way the Avs run through Cale Makar. And it just creates an added dynamic that you have to prepare for defensively. I mean, it's probably at the top of the list of reasons why this Minnesota team is superior to the LA team. I mean, it's not just the one, but probably at the top of the list is Quinn Hughes. In Minnesota's ability to hurt you with every position on the ice when he's out there. And the unpredictability of where the puck is going to be coming from, where the shot's going to be coming from. So I would say one game in, you know, we talk about these storylines and setting up for the series, for any series. Oh, it's going to be this guy against this guy. This is the premier matchup. This is the thing to look out for. And then how many times do we get into a series and it doesn't end up being that way? Game one, Hughes versus McCarr lived up to the hype, and we didn't even get as much Cale McCarr in that game as we expect to moving forward in this series. So that delivered game one. But let's not forget, too, because as much as I bang the drum of, appreciate Cale McCarr, you do. Like, we're under it's like Nikola Jokic. Like, we get it. We talk about all of it. Maybe casuals or maybe nationally, they don't spend as much time on Cale's defensive game as maybe we do. We know that. But one guy that is not talked about enough, even here among us, is Devon Toews. Because the guy just goes about his business. And a lot of the stuff he does doesn't show up on the stat sheet. So even Devon Toews, criminally underrated as the league goes, but even underrated in Colorado. We don't even talk about Devon Toews as much as we should. But he is key to unlocking what all Cale McCarr does. And then he is vital to keeping pucks out of the net. And as underrated of a player as Devon Toews is, we underrate even more his offensive side. He might have been the best offensive player in the game last night. What the 3 stars were him, McCarr, and Natchez. I could argue Devon Toews was the best player on the Avalanche last night. A goal, a couple of assists. He doesn't do that all the time. But he can pop up every now and again. And you look at the final score being 9-6. You could say the Avs didn't need all 9, but they kind of did. They needed 8, right? When Cale McCarr scored the 8th goal, that's when you kind of, or at least I did, you kind of exhale and like, okay. And then they get the empty netter just to be sure. But Devon Toews was brilliant last night. And already we were talking about Quinn Hughes versus Cale McCarr. Let's go beyond that. I think the blue line has become the storyline of this series. You have the Hughes-McCarr matchup. You have Devon Toews as arguably the best player on the ice last night. And then if you're looking forward to game 2, and I don't want to do too much of that, that's what tomorrow's for. But one of my big takeaways is this team needs Josh Manson back. And I would expect, because the Avs won last night, that they will not rush Josh Manson back, and they got this obscenely long break. Thanks, Minnesota. Like, you're the state of hockey, and you book other things when your team would be in the second round of the playoffs? Some state of hockey you are. And what is it, like a rodeo and a Yo Gabba Gabba concert or something like that making us wait from Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday with no games? That's ridiculous. But at any rate, it allows the Avs to err on the side of caution when it comes to Josh Manson's injury. But they were already rotating. I'll tell you, I call the minute Nick Blankenberg joined the Colorado Avalanche, I dubbed him the new Sam Girard. Right? Similar skill set, similar frame. I think they're even the same age, same birthday. I mean, it was crazy. But last night, he looked like the new Sam Girard. Scored a great goal. Phenomenal goal. He was directly responsible for 2 of the goals that the Avs gave up in that game. And to put him with Brent Burns, that's not it. That's not the way here. Burns needs to be with Malinsky, and Blankenberg needs to be with Manson, because then you have, like you do with Cale Makar and Devon Taves, even though, again, Devon Taves, underrated offensive game, Cale Makar, underrated defensive game. But with the depth pairings, you get offense and you get defense. Manson paired well with Girard. Manson pairs well with Blankenberg. More physicality, more defensive oriented. And it's the same with Burns. Burns will throw that 41-year-old body of his around a little bit, but he's not a defensive defenseman. Putting him with Sam Malinsky is a perfect combination. And without Manson, it throws a wrench in the whole thing. The times that Blankenberg and Burns were on the ice, that was not great. So I think the blue line is emerging as the predominant storyline of this series. It was kind of going into it, and it certainly is after game one. I'll take your thoughts at 719-247-1313. More Drive Time Sports after this. Territory Days celebrates its 50th anniversary in Old Colorado City, May 23rd through the 25th. Enjoy free admission to live music, great food, beer and wine garden, vendors, gold panning, native dancers, and a full kids zone. And that's not even the half of it. Territory Days is sponsored by Great Clips, Kingdom Builders, Family Life Center, and Hugh Berger's Subaru. Celebrate Memorial Day weekend in Old Colorado City with Territory Days. Get back to the Avs coming up at the top of the hour. Also some reporting as far as the future of the Denver Nuggets is concerned. You aren't going to like it. But if you are a Switchbacks fan right now, you got to be loving what you're seeing. Talked to Alan McCann on Thursday after the day after just the most gut-wrenching defeat, 5-4 on penalties against the Colorado Rapids, round of 16 of the U.S. Open Cup, and they had to turn around and go to a place that they had never won in San Antonio. Never in their history have they won a match in San Antonio. And my worry going into it was, how are they going to lock back in with all the energy they expended and the emotional nature of that match? And they had no issues with it whatsoever. In fact, they had San Antonio a couple of times. But if you're not, I tweeted this out after the match, and selfishly, I would love for you to listen to the Switchbacks. But if you're not following what's going on with this team, if you're not at Widener Field, if you're not watching them, if you're not listening to them, you're really missing out, because there has not been a dull moment with this soccer team in a while. Late in the match, almost a carbon copy, not the way that the goals were scored, but it was a similar situation to Wednesday night. The Switchbacks battling all the way through. And then late in extra time against the Rapids break through. Only a few minutes left. And I wouldn't blame you if you were like, that might be a wrap. And then Switchbacks get the handball on the Rapids. They take the penalty kick, equalize, and we go to more penalty kicks. No panic, just stayed with it, and we're able to equalize. Same thing happened in San Antonio. San Antonio scores in the night. We got 11 minutes of stoppage time, which is obscene. That's an obscene amount of stoppage time. So I knew, and Roland and I were talking about on the broadcast, you knew that there was going to be plenty of opportunities for someone to score a goal here, tied at 2 at the time. And then San Antonio gets one in the 97th minute. It's a deflection that finds its way into the back of the net. But in the 97th minute, when we're playing 101, it's like, that's not, all of a sudden, there was plenty of time when stoppage time started. After the San Antonio goal, there wasn't much time left. And yet, here are the Switchbacks again. They go right down the field. 3 minutes later, Brendan Creek, who equalized in the first half in Commerce City, takes a shot, and it's put into the back of the San Antonio net by one of the San Antonio defenders. It was ruled an own goal, but you give Brendan Creek a ton of credit for putting a shot into a real dangerous area. And then the Switchbacks ultimately end up taking a point in San Antonio. Not the result they were looking for, not the result that they had at one point in the match, but that's the thing with draws, and soccer's about the only sport now that has draws. It's the beauty is in the eye of the beholder. And I ask Roland this all the time: when a match finishes in a draw, does it feel more like a win or more like a loss? Well, 2-2 was not going to feel great, if we're being honest, with the way that the Switchbacks played and the fact they had the lead. 3-3, given what happened, feels like more than just winning a point off of San Antonio. So the stick-to-itiveness, the resiliency of this club, it's been on full display over the last few weeks, and it comes from Alan McCann. And the first thing I'm going to ask him when I see him this week, like, where does his uncommon belief come from? Like the guy, every time I talk to him, and I had him on the show on Thursday, he just he doesn't even bat an eye when I lay out how difficult it's going to be to go from that match against the Rapids to turning around and going to San Antonio, a place they've never won, against the best team in the West, arguably. And he just doesn't even flinch. It's like, we're going to go down there and, we've done this. We won in Phoenix. We beat an MLS team. I guess it's that demonstrated ability that Sean Payton always talks about. But Alan McCann came into the head coaching role like this. And I got to imagine, not that I was in the room or anything like that when they were interviewing Alan McCann, but I got to imagine it's something that appealed very much to Brad Estes, the club president, and the board of directors, on making them believe this is their guy. But and you believe him. It's not, some people can sell you on an idea. They're very convincing, but they don't believe it themselves. Alan McCann believes it to his core. And the team has to feed off of that. And so when they fall behind late in extra time against an MLS club, they just go right down the field and equalize. Same thing on Saturday against San Antonio, the best defensive team in the league. And the Switchbacks go right down the field and get an own goal. San Antonio doesn't score own goals. And that, to make, take in the bigger picture here, you equalize because of a handball against the Rapids. You equalize on an own goal against San Antonio. We see this in sports. And it's all anecdotal. It's just, you watch enough sports and you kind of believe this in your core. When a team wins that, not wins, but when a team produces in that fashion, they get one of the best defensive teams in the league to make an egregious defensive error. They get an MLS team to do the same thing. That's when you start to say it feels like a special year. When you win that way, when you win, as some people might say, in fluky ways, but you win in uncommon ways, it feels like maybe there's something big on the horizon. And I think you feel that way right now if you're a Switchbacks fan. These last 3 weeks, they've gone toe-to-toe in 3 different competitions, 2 MLS clubs, 1 team that's leading the Western Conference, and they've beaten them or played them even. But what a wild. You want to talk about 9-6 last night, game 1 of the Avs and Wild being crazy. 3-3 between Colorado Springs and San Antonio was close to that level. It's a wild evening, but good on the boys. Once again, sticking with it, earning a point. They all matter. Every single one of these points become massive. And we've seen it when this, even the championship year, the Switchbacks had to go on a ridiculous run at the end of the season to put themselves in position where they were in the playoffs. This team throughout their history, regardless of the head coach, tends to kind of wait till the weather warms up to kind of get going. This team's not doing that. They're taking points in every competition. They're advancing in every competition. There is a different feeling with this team, even though the roster is not that much different than it was a year ago. Different in key ways, Corey Bennett being chief among them, but a lot of the same cast of characters. And they blow out Sporting Kansas City, blow out Monterey Bay. They play an epic match against the Rapids. They go down to Phoenix and get a win, which they rarely do down in the desert. I'm getting those a little bit out of order, but then you have what happened on Saturday. And by the way, no rest for the weary. They don't even get a full week to prepare for Orange County. They got to play them Friday night. But it will be at home, which the Switchbacks have yet to lose. 7 o'clock, if you'd like to join us, Galactic Night. I hear today is important if you're a fan of galactic cinema. It's not my thing, but so Galactic Night will be on Friday night, presented by D1. SwitchbacksFC.com is where you go to get those tickets. 719-247-1313. Coming up next, we'll get back into game one. Wasn't Wedgwood's best, as Jared Bednar will explain. Is it time to go to Mackenzie Blackwood for game two? We'll discuss next on 740 KVOR and Extra Sports 1300. Welcome in. I appreciate you stopping by. Special shouts to those of you watching the show anywhere you scroll at 740 KVOR and at Extra Sports 1300. While you're there, if you don't mind liking, subscribing, following, whatever the correct vernacular is for that particular social media website. And most importantly, comment, because this is an interactive experience. You can also reach out the traditional ways by calling or texting into the show at 719-247-1313. A wild evening, and I'm going to move in and out throughout the series, meaning the pun and sometimes not meaning the pun. There, the pun was not intended, but there's just not another word that I prefer to use to describe last night other than wild. Could use crazy. Could go nuts. Going with wild. 9-6. Avs take a 1-0 series lead over Minnesota. All the offensive fireworks was great. And I think that the Avs certainly made a statement coming off of the LA series, just kind of reminding anybody who needs reminding. I don't know that Minnesota needed reminding, but maybe they did. The Avs, they can play this game too. And that's the game where I give Minnesota or anybody else in the NHL almost zero chance of winning. The Avs are not going to be vanquished in the Stanley Cup playoffs because they were outscored for a series. I don't think if the Avs are healthy, that's just not happening. So that was the statement made. We played 4 games this other way. This game got loose. It became wide open, and we can win that way too. But we know that's not the way that the series is going to be played most of the way. Minnesota's too good to let that happen repeatedly, and the Avs are too committed to the quote-unquote right way of winning in the Stanley Cup playoffs to let the game get that open. So what do you do about it? Like, how do you get back to the way, closer to the way you played against LA? And a lot of people are looking in goal. And I'm going to say this about Scott Wedgwood. If you just saw that he gave up 6 goals, you are under a misconception of how he played. And Jared Bednar, I think, just talked about this last week. The way he judges goaltenders is a little bit differently than maybe some people do. He doesn't hang every goal on the goaltender. And that should be the right way. A goalie is an extension of your team. He's not this, he's not in a vacuum. He is very dependent. I don't mean that in a negative way. I just mean he is attached to everything else that goes on the ice. And if the guys in front of him aren't doing their job, then as highly as you think of Scott Wedgwood, you're not going to make every save if everything completely breaks down in front of him. So 6 goals does not do Scott Wedgwood any justice. But as Jared Bednar mentions, Scott Wedgwood's been better than he was last night.
It wasn't his best. That being said, on the defensive side of things, it was probably no one on our team's best, So I group him in with the rest of the team. We have to get better, and we'll do that for game 2. And but he's been great for us. Give us a chance to win. Give us a chance to win tonight.
And I said this last night on Twitter. If there is a time to go to Mackenzie Blackwood, the time is now. If Jared Bednar has any thought left, which we don't know, and even today he was playing it close to the vest and saying that both of his goaltenders need to be better, and Mackenzie Blackwood was like, what did I do? but he refuses to let anything go. Jared Bednar's very buttoned up. Normally, but especially this time of year. But if there is a time to give Mackenzie Blackwood a look, to maybe give Scott Wedgwood a night off, it would be tomorrow night. I would be perfectly okay if Scott Wedgwood is in goal tomorrow night, because I don't think that you put all 6 goals on him. And as I expect the Avs to play better defensively, I would also expect Scott Wedgwood to be better than he was last night. So I'm fine if he wants to go Scott Wedgwood. I've been the one saying that even though the Avs are doing this, goaltender, dual goaltender tandem thing and rotating these guys, I said at some point in these playoffs, Jared Bednar's got to decide on a dude. Right? A game 7, a pivotal game 5, pivotal game 3, like these big games, who are you going to turn to? Jared Bednar has to have that in his mind, and it's become abundantly clear it's Scott Wedgwood. So he's the guy. But the Avs didn't win the Jennings Trophy for the best goaltending tandem because Scott Wedgwood was the only good one, and he was carrying Mackenzie Blackwood. Mackenzie Blackwood was good this season too. So if he still wants to take a peek at Mackenzie Blackwood, and maybe this is around Scott Wedgwood. This is maybe just saying, okay, Scott Wedgwood, he just won his first career playoff game in game 1 against LA. Like, this is uncharted territory. It might be worth giving him a different viewpoint for game 2. Letting him reset a bit and give Mackenzie Blackwood an opportunity. If Jared Bednar doesn't go with Mackenzie Blackwood, then you really wonder if there's going to be any point where Mackenzie Blackwood makes any sense. So that'll be something to monitor for going into tomorrow night. But Jared Bednar today, again, mentioning both goalies needing to be better tomorrow night, which is him not tipping his hand on what way he's going to go. And there's probably a good reason for that. Because teams scout goaltenders too. And we were reminded of that last night. I think at least three of the goals that the Avs scored, maybe 4, looked very similar to one another. That they were going the same spot on Jesper Wallstedt. And I think it was Arif Dean who pointed it out on Twitter. Give him credit because he was keeping an eye on that. But there were a few goals. It looked like the Avs were aiming to a specific spot. That's scouting. And Jared Bednar talked about it after last night's game. It's not that there's anything revelatory about the Avs finding a hole in their opposing goaltender. Like, they try to do that with everybody. But because of the number of goals and because the way that the game unfolded, you really noticed it. Low glove hand. And there are spots on every goaltender that are a little bit more vulnerable. Now, can the Avalanche consistently get to the spot, get the shot off that they want to exploit that? That's not a foregone conclusion. They're going to have to work. And now Minnesota is wise to what the Avs are trying to do, and they're going to make adjustments. They're going to try to help out their young goaltender moving forward in this series. But it really did seem like the Avs had a really good scout on Minnesota's goaltender. And maybe Minnesota can say the same thing about Scott Wedgwood. I just didn't see a pattern with the goals that were scored on Scott Wedgwood the way I saw the Avs goals. They were kind of like chaos. One, Blankenberg's kind of tied up with Scott Wedgwood, and he gives up a goal. One that goes like over his shoulder. One went 5-hole. It didn't seem like Minnesota was picking out a specific spot. But I'm sure there is that scout on Scott Wedgwood and where Minnesota would like to try and shoot the puck. But as you're looking at it, it is a fascinating goaltender matchup because neither one of these guys, even though they are separated by a few years in their age, in terms of experience, people are just finding out who Scott Wedgwood is now. People are just finding out about Minnesota's goaltender. One just happens to be very young, and the other one has been a career backup. But these are both goaltenders that every game that goes by, they are in uncharted territory. They've never been here before. Every game that goes by, they've never been in this situation before. They've never been this far in the playoffs before. And I think both teams feel like they have an opportunity in this series to test a goaltender that has never been this far in the postseason. You would think about it more. You think of Scott Wedgwood as a veteran, but again, in terms of his playoff experience, he's not a veteran. So you'd most likely say, well, the younger goaltender is the one that you want to test and you want to put him under pressure because he might fold due to his lack of experience. Minnesota could say that about Scott Wedgwood. And both goaltenders were phenomenal in their first round series. So it's not like either team eked by compensating for, Tristan Jarry or anything like that. But it is something to look out for as this series goes on when the stakes get raised more and more. How is Minnesota's goaltender going to respond in a game 3 if Minnesota is down 2-0? What about when these games get to game 5, 6, 7, and one of these teams is on the verge of elimination? Because Scott Wedgwood, he was quite comfortable. The Avs were comfortable in their situation. So the first time Scott Wedgwood is in an elimination game or a game 7, you won't really know because you'll have no experience for him to go on. But same goes for the guy in goal for Minnesota. Told you there's a lot in this series. There's a lot of stuff to go on here. One night in, I don't know what the big takeaways are. I keep going back to the Avs reminded anybody that needs reminding that they can score a ton of goals. I don't know that a lot of people needed reminding of that. Outside of that, other than the fact that the Avs are up 1-0 and teams that win game 1 tend to do very well in a series, not a lot of takeaways. I think it was so different than how this series is actually going to be played. But I'll take your thoughts on game 1, 719-24-7-13-13. Meanwhile, another team in the Kroenke Empire has apparently made a decision on their head coach. Switchbacks FC back at Widener Field this Friday night at 7, taking on Orange County SC for Galactic Night, presented by D1. Get your tickets now at switchbacksfc.com. Yeah, I don't want to ruin the vibe of today after that thrilling 9-6 win last night in game 1 for the Avs, but I am a newsman, and I give you the news, or in this case, the reporting. This was Shams Charania on the future of Nuggets head coach David Adelman.
David Adelman, their head coach, he is going to be back. His job is safe.
Which begs the natural question, why? And I've seen some other reports that there was a belief, and this goes back to Jamal Murray when they won a title, that was, jokingly telling all the teams to stay away from David Adelman. He's no good. And, you just win a title. So everybody loves everybody. And look, and I don't even want to say that because the players may like David Adelman. They may like him. They may respect him. But he's clearly not maximizing what this team is. And even if the Nuggets were afraid to lose him at one point, like, you're in a championship window. Okay, you may like the guy, but you have to identify if he's the right guy for where you are right now. Like, life is about timing. If David Adelman is very intelligent, which he is, if he's liked by his players, respected by his players, which I think he is, but that may only manifest itself in the way you need it to on a young team that's building. Maybe he'd fit the role that Jordan Ott has with the Phoenix Suns better than he would a team that's championship or bust. So you have to look at the qualities he brings to the table and decide if all of that is what you need at this moment in time. And, as we, sift through the wreckage of this Nuggets season, I'm not going to sit here and say that I thought David Adelman would be a bad hire. Just like we all thought that the Michael Porter Jr. trade was going to be great. I'm not faulting the Denver Nuggets for doing the things they did. What I am saying is moving forward, you got to take in the new evidence. Did you actually improve your team by trading Michael Porter Jr.? Was David Adelman actually the right guy, or did you see a byproduct of the Nuggets not being coached by Michael Malone last year in the playoffs? I don't fault the directions that the Nuggets took this past offseason. But what I will find fault with is if they decide that standing pat is the right way to go. Because they are, if that is the case, they're seeing it very differently than I am. And I think like you are. If you keep David Adelman, you're not going all in. I just want to launch that preemptive strike now. So when Josh Kroenke, who is expected, or the Nuggets organization, maybe it's Tenzer and Wallace, I don't know. It's usually Josh, that speaks at this end of season press conference, which word on the street is it will be this week. I just don't want to hear all in. I don't want to hear we're doing everything we can. Because you're not. You think some things are good enough, and the only thing that, or only person that is good enough is Nikola Jokic. Everybody else, you feel like maybe the Nuggets can do better. Whether it's with Aaron Gordon, a health perspective, whether it's Jamal Murray and the type of player he is, whether it's the bench guys, David Adelman, like, you can't tell me that there can't be other options elsewhere that maybe, like, this is good, what they have. Could it be better? So I just don't want to hear we're all in. We're doing everything we can, because you're not. There are coaches that I think could help the Nuggets get to where they want to get back to. And David Adelman is not on that list. And you have to keep this in mind too. And I said this immediately after Game 6. And it just, as much as you hate it, it's a cloud that's hanging over this entire Nuggets offseason. We don't see this with the Avalanche because they have a hard salary cap. Like, there is no wiggle room. There is no way for the richer owners to flex their financial muscle. It's a hard salary cap. That's where you go to. With the NBA, they have wiggle room. And it's this ongoing debate of, is it okay to be in the luxury tax? Is it okay now to be in the second apron? But there is the ability for the wealthiest of owners to spend above and beyond the salary cap. And Stan Kroenke, in theory, should be one of those. But he doesn't operate that way. So when you hear that David Adelman's job is safe, and Shams didn't go into a specific reason, some other reporters have, and we'll hear it straight from the Nuggets themselves on why David Adelman should stick around. But one thing you're not going to hear that is absolutely a part of this, David Adelman is cheap. And this goes back to the first domino that fell that set all of this in motion for the Denver Nuggets to be sitting here shell-shocked at the way their season ended. They let Tim Connolly walk because they weren't willing to pay him what Minnesota was willing to pay him. The job's not any different. The pay was different. And historically, the Kroenkes don't like to pay a lot for coaches, general managers, especially. So you're not going to hear it, but just know that's part of this. Now, okay, they're sticking with David Adelman. I don't like it. I don't agree with it. But as Cale McCarr would say, it is what it is. You have to change the roster fundamentally. Right? You can be somewhat okay with David Adelman being the head coach if this team is changed, because maybe they change into a team that is better for David Adelman. I don't know what that is, what that looks like, but maybe it is. But it has to, I think it should be both, but it has to be one or the other. And simply letting either Peyton Watson go or dumping Cam Johnson so you could pay Peyton Watson, that is a change, but is it better change? Is it moving the needle? Are the Nuggets better for that? They need to change themselves in a way that you could say they're better. And just like the financial rules changed immediately when the Nuggets won the title and the Nuggets had to figure some things out, it's the same way with the way the game has moved. Right? Depth became more important. Nuggets had to catch up. And they made a move this past offseason to build more depth. But here's the other thing that is interesting to note. The top 11 teams in terms of the most three-pointers took, 10 of them are not currently in the postseason. Cleveland is the only one among the top 11 three-point shooting teams, not in terms of success, in terms of volume. They're the only one left. which just goes to further show that the Warriors screwed up everybody's perception. They were so unique, so different because of Steph Curry that everyone lost the plot and thought they should go small and three-point shooting because the Warriors did it. I know all these leagues are copycat leagues. There are some blueprints you should not copy, and it's becoming more and more clear that you should not try to copy what the Golden State Warriors did, because they had Clay, they had Steph, they were unique, and you just can't acquire that. Teams thought, well, if our sixth man can shoot some threes, then we can be like the Warriors. No, you have to have the best shooter that has ever walked planet Earth. And you have to have somebody who's not that far behind in Klay Thompson. And then one year you got to, mess around and get Kevin Durant. So the idea that, and I know it's analytics driven also, but you saw it with the Denver Nuggets. You saw it with the Boston Celtics. When they went cold from three, forget it. They had no other recourse. So at the very least, the Nuggets got to get more versatile with some of their players. But I would say that I would sacrifice a fair amount of three-point shooting to get players. This is, as you see all of these mock trades going around, the two skill sets that you should be looking for. And if you could get them in the same player, great. Guys that get to the rim and guys that keep others from getting to the rim. Those are the players that the Denver Nuggets should be looking for. And that's why I say I wouldn't hate it if the Nuggets kept Aaron Gordon. Like, he's not at the top of my priority list. I'm just saying you have to open up all options. And if Aaron Gordon is the only guy that's going to bring you the change that you need, then you do it. But that's why I keep holding up Jamal Murray. Jamal Murray, if you move him, I think you could get value in return. And you're not sacrificing a guy that would fit very well with Nikola Jokic moving forward. But you got to do what you got to do. If Aaron Gordon is going to fetch you three players and none of them are as good as Aaron Gordon, but they all possess kind of the same mentality and the same skill set, then I think that's a successful trade. But this idea, and this was floated around all season long, Nuggets need to just surround Jokic with shooters. That's like saying the Rockies should get home run hitters. Like, you're just taking something that should be naturally occurring and augmenting it even more at the sacrifice of other things that can help you win games. Right? If you are playing at Coors Field, home runs are going to happen. I'm not saying that you say we don't care about power at all. I'm just saying if you focus on other skill sets and bringing other things to the table, the home runs will be at a decent level, and you'll be able to compensate for any lack of home runs you hit with all the other things you have. It's the same with the Denver Nuggets. Guys are such good shooters in the NBA in totality that playing with Nikola Jokic, there will be open three-point looks. And players will get them. I know that's hard to say after the Minnesota series, but I promise you, over the course of an entire season, that will happen. But also the type of players I'm talking about will help that. Open three-pointers will be had when you're playing with Nikola Jokic. So why do you have to get players that's all they do? Get players that cut. Get players that defend. With the depth conversation, and I talked about this going into Game 6. It's not just more guys that you can feel comfortable playing. It's also the skill sets that those guys bring to the table. It's being able to call upon Jonas Valanciunas, because you need to set some hard screens. It's calling on Tyus Jones because you need to give Jamal Murray a breather, bringing the ball up the court. It's depth, but it's also varying skill sets. And I think that the Nuggets are starting to go one way. I think some people have called for them to lean even more into that way, and the numbers aren't bearing out that that's the right move. Guys that get to the rim and guys that keep others from getting to the rim. If you're going to trade Jamal Murray, because this is not Jamal Murray did anything wrong. This is just who Jamal Murray is as a basketball player may not be best for the Denver Nuggets moving forward. If you're going to trade Jamal Murray, an all-star, an all-NBA player, one of the most beloved Denver Nuggets, you got to get the right guys. But David Adelman going to be staying. Shams does say everyone not named Nikola Jokic is going to be involved in trade talks. They're going to make calls and take calls on everybody else. That is a more positive development than the one with David Adelman. But what I fear is, I'll just throw this out while we're piling on all the bad vibes here. I have a strange feeling that will be at the end of the offseason, and the excuse out of Denver will be, we tried, we wanted to, but we're not going to give away our players for free, which is a cop-out. Because there are plenty of teams right now that are, misery loves company. There are plenty of teams in the same boat as the Denver Nuggets. A couple of them just got eliminated. Boston needs to do some different things. Orlando needs to do some different things with their roster. There are a lot of places that you can look. Toronto's another one. Trades are hard to make. I understand that. And everybody's looking to win the trade. But there are a few teams right now that are kind of in the same boat where they got a lot of guys that kind of do the same thing and they don't have enough players that do something else. Call up those teams and see, like Orlando could use Jamal Murray. Nuggets could use Franz Wagner. Now, I wouldn't make that a one-for-one swap, but how about Franz Wagner and Jalen Suggs? How about Franz Wagner and some draft capital? From a basketball standpoint, there seems to be a fit there. There's a similar fit in Toronto, similar fit in Detroit. They're still alive, but I don't know how long the Pistons are for these playoffs. Boston, if they're looking to unload Derek White, and it's not just the Colorado connection, that dude would fit perfectly on the Denver Nuggets. A lot of teams assessing the way they are built. Nuggets are one of them. Call up one of those other teams and see if maybe you have something that they want. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts. We didn't get much time last week to get into what happened in Game 6, so I'm here for your thoughts on that if you'd like. 719-247-1313. Mother's Day is Sunday, May 10th. Win her pearls from Louisa Graff Jewelers. It's a sterling silver freshwater pearl strand and earring set, a $298 value. Enter to win at extrasports1300.com or kvor.com. Do so before midnight on Thursday. And if you are a winner, we're not going to make you wait past Mother's Day, obviously. You will be contacted on Friday. So we do have the Avs on the board when it comes to being a finalist for a postseason award. The Masterson Award. Gabriel Landeskog is a finalist for that. Now, at the risk of, and I see my comment section on Instagram at GingeWatch, at the risk of sounding like a spoiled Avalanche fan, when I talk about the Avs getting snubbed from awards, this is not the type of award I'm talking about. Good on Gabriel Landeskog. He should win it. I think it's something about perseverance and courage and all that. And I don't mean to diminish it. That's what Gabriel Landeskog embodies. His whole story, I keep going back to, there was a time where I didn't think this guy would play in the NHL again. But this isn't what we're really talking about. We're not talking about the Masterson. We're not talking about the Lady Byng. We're talking about trophies and awards that signify that the Avs have one of the three best at what they do. Lady Byng is not one of the three best players. Masterson isn't about your play on the ice. That's what the complaints are about. That's what we're talking about. How could the Avs be this good and not have one of the three most outstanding players in the league, which Nathan McKinnon was dubbed to not be one by his own peers, which makes it that more egregious. Jared Bednar's didn't do one of the three best coaching jobs this year in the NHL. He had the best team from beginning to end, and best record from beginning to end in the toughest division in hockey. He not one of the three. And I'm not saying Lindy Ruff is going to win that and he should get 100% of the votes. Okay, what he has done in Buffalo is spectacular and he should absolutely win. I'm not even talking about the Avs winning these awards. I'm just saying if you're going to put out three finalists and no Avs are in there, then that just makes no sense to me. How could the Avs be this good with it, at best the fourth best at any given position? They have to have one of the three best at a certain spot. And I don't even know that one. I don't even know that one Cale Makar being nominated for the Norris does what the Avs are as a team justice. I just think it's, and I hate to make this comparison, and Ray's going to bristle at this. It's a little like the Thunder in the NBA in this regard. Okay, I don't think anybody has an issue with the way that the Avs play. Okay, so it's none of that stuff. But it's just the idea that we say, oh, they're so good, which the Thunder are. They're head and shoulders above everybody else in the NBA right now. But that has to be due to somebody. It can't just be that they're better than the sum of their parts here. There's got to be somebody who is excellent, who is one of the best at what they do. Is it Dagno, their head coach? Is it Shea? I mean, somebody has to be we do this where we say, oh, that team's so good, and we just don't want to honor anybody on that team. It's like, no, somebody deserves honoring. I think that's what's happening with the Colorado Avalanche. Oh, they're so good. Okay, but are any of their players good or no? Because if you say, well, everyone on the ice, Makar is the fourth best defenseman, Nathan MacKinnon the fourth best player, Scott Wedgwood the fourth best goalie, and you go down the list, well, I would say that Jared Bednar being able to get that team to be the President's Trophy winner would make him one of the three best coaches this year in the NHL. So it doesn't follow any logical pattern of thinking. I'm not saying the Avs have to be up for all of these awards, but the ones that have come out so far seems like there's a very good Avalanche candidate that is being overlooked here. Yeah, that kind of blew up on Instagram. You got Instagram up. Ray, you got a smattering of, we don't have time to go through all the comments, but my video, that the clip of me, just to put it in context, basically talking about what I'm talking about right now. And this was after MacKinnon was snubbed as a finalist for his award, and Wedgwood was snubbed for Vezina. And it just, as things tend to do on the internet, there's no rhyme or reason. It just kind of caught fire a little bit. What are the arguments against what I am saying?
There's not really. There was just one.
Thank you.
Avalanche fans are insufferable.
Okay, well,
but
that's not what we're really arguing here.
So we got one from We Must Defend. He's the best player on the best team. Avs' fourth line would be most teams' second line. Nate is a victim of the team's success, so is Wedgie. There is also very real East Coast bias, but in the end, only one trophy matters to Nate. He wants his name on Lord Stanley's cup. The rest is just nonsense.
And that's true, but also like a cautionary tale to that. If you are an Avs and a Nuggets fan, how are you feeling about the years that have gone by that Jokic, Jokic doesn't care about the MVP? Now, like, how are you feeling about that now? Like, you're right. Nathan MacKinnon doesn't care. But when we have these big conversations about legacy and best player in the world and all that stuff, this stuff does. I get it. We're taking up on their behalf. But I'll also say this too. I don't believe for a second that Nathan MacKinnon doesn't care at all. How can you take pride in your job and not be a little bit bent out of shape, even quietly, if you're not recognized for it? Like the guy is as maniacal a worker at his craft as any athlete, let alone hockey player. You don't think that some part of Nathan MacKinnon thinks that he deserves to be rewarded for that? I mean, it's something that nobody wants to talk about because it makes these guys seem like their priorities in the right place or aren't in the right place. Trust me, Nathan MacKinnon, Nikola Jokic, Cale Makar, these guys are wired the right way. Winning a championship is far more important than winning individual awards, as it should be. But you can't tell me that Makar and Jokic and MacKinnon and any athlete doesn't like to be recognized for all the work they've put in, that doesn't have a sense of pride as being recognized as one of the best. Is it their top priority? No. But the commenter pointed it out perfectly. As you're saying all of that stuff, you use the word victim. And that's what I'm talking about. Like, victim feels like a strong word, but it holds up. Nathan MacKinnon is not being recognized as a finalist for an award that he rightly deserves to be because the rest of his team is too good. That's kind of what I'm getting at. The entire Avalanche team is a victim of their own success. But trust me, they have one of the 3 best somethings on their team. I promise you they do. And they have more than one. We have not seen the Hart Trophy candidates, and we haven't seen the Norris. So you got McKinnon for one of those and McCarr for the other. The balance will be restored to the universe if Nathan McKinnon and Cale Makar are finalists for those awards. A little bit. I think the one that in a weird way, the ones that I think other than Makar with the Norris Trophy, I think the ones that the Avs are absolutely more deserving in. I said this with Celebrini. Celebrini has a better MVP case if we're putting the value in there, because he dragged a young Sharks team without as much talent as these other teams and got them on the verge of the playoffs. I think he has a better MVP case than Nathan McKinnon does, but the award that he was snubbed for is simply most outstanding, simply the best, and he was snubbed for that. What's driving the shows next? Hello there. Welcome in. Glad to have you on this Monday, whether you're listening on 740 KVOR, Extra Sports 1300, or you are watching the show anywhere you scroll. I certainly do appreciate it. Love to hear from you. 719-247-1313. You could call or text into the show, or if you are one of those who are watching the show, you can always drop a comment on the live stream, and we will get to them as the hour moves forward. Perhaps these three stories might be what you'd like to discuss. They are what's driving the show today. All right. Obviously, we're going here first. Game one is story number one.
Back to the point, Taves swings it to his right. Cale McCarr doesn't take the shot. Now he does. He scores! Oh, Cale! That's two here in the third. And the Avs in a playoff game have put up 8 goals. Number 8 makes it 8-6 Colorado.
Connor McGahey on the call for Altitude Sports, as heard on Extra Sports 1300. No one was expecting what we got last night in game one. The final would be 9-6 after an empty netter for the Avs. As opposite as you can get from the 4 games against the LA Kings. And I believe that the Avs had every intention of playing that game straight up, of extending everything they did in the Kings series. And then they scored 3 goals in 2 minutes, and they're like, to heck with this. We want to score more goals. We forgot how much fun this is. And in doing that, they created a game that Minnesota has no chance of beating Colorado in. The higher the score in these games, I'll just say this for the rest of the series, I'll take the Avs. The higher the score goes, the more that the Avs are going to be favored. No team in the NHL has as much firepower as the Avs do. That almost goes without saying. But in doing that, they completely lost the plot on the other end of the ice. They paid no attention to all the details that got them through that Kings series. And I would very much expect that kind of a game to not happen in game 2. We may get another crazy high-scoring game, or at least high-scoring in the traditional sense, not that high-scoring. At some point later on in the series, I expect a complete course correction from both teams, and this is going to be more defense than in the Kings series. I mean, have you been watching the Tampa-Montreal series, like that kind of a game? Just like no goals whatsoever until someone has to score one. But I don't expect and that's what makes last night a little bit difficult to, extrapolate from, because I don't think it was the game that either team expected to play. I don't think it's the type of game that either team really wants to play. Avs more than Minnesota, but I don't think the Avs even want it. I think they pride themselves on playing the style and brand of hockey that wins in the postseason. So I don't know what the big takeaways are, other than the Avalanche showing once again why they are the favorites, why they are so formidable. You want to play a tight checking, low-scoring game, LA? All right, we'll beat you 4 in a row. Minnesota, you're going to let us get 3 in the back of the net in 2 minutes? We're just going to keep this up, and we're going to run up the score. The Avs can win any kind of hockey game that you could possibly imagine. So that was what last night was. But in order for Minnesota to win this series, they're going to have to buckle down and make the Avs play a more defensive-oriented, tighter checking game, which the Avs are comfortable with. But it's the only way that the Avs can win this series in any number of different ways. Low scoring, tight checking, high scoring with no defense. Minnesota can only win this one way. They have to get back to that. I expect them to get back to that. They're too good of a team not to. But the Avs can meet them on that level too. Course correction for game 2. Going to look wildly different than last night did, but it was fun, wasn't it? 9-6, Avs take the 1-0 series lead. Elsewhere in the Kroenke Empire,
David Adelman, their head coach, he is going to be back. His job is safe.
That is not great news if you're a Nuggets fan. I think many Nuggets fans after game 6 and that embarrassment wanted David Adelman to answer for that with his job. There's a little bit of bloodlust that is mixed in here, but it's like something has to change. Nikola Jokic after the game said, we're not close. We got bounced in the first round. You got to change something. And I think a lot of people want, including me, include the head coach in that. And I think this is the reason why he's sticking around there are a few reasons. I don't think you're going to like any one of them. One, they value him highly. And there was a time, according to some reporting, that they were legitimately worried they would lose him. I remember Jamal Murray at the post-game press conference after they beat the Heat in the NBA Finals, jokingly telling other teams that David Adelman's terrible. So they don't want to lose that, intelligence capital. Like, they think that he's a bright basketball mind. And the players do like him like that. I don't think that that's I don't expect Nikola Jokic or anybody else to act any differently. If you're asked about your head coach, you're going to be like, yeah, he sucks. But I do believe them that they like David Adelman, that they put more on themselves than on him. And that's fine. And that's why I said it wasn't just David Adelman that is going to change the fortunes of the Denver Nuggets, but he's part of it. The idea of losing David Adelman, someone that they value, but sometimes you have to, if he's not the right guy for where you are right now. And that's what last season showed me. He's not the right guy for right now for the Denver Nuggets. But here's the other part, and you're not going to like this even more. David Adelman is cost effective. And that's going to loom over everything the Nuggets do this offseason. You don't notice it as much with the Avalanche because they have a hard cap. So there are league imposed. The league forces you to be frugal, right? And owners can hide behind that. Whether they want to spend, whether they would spend above and beyond the salary cap if they were allowed to or not, you'll never know because you can't. It's a hard cap. In the NBA, we see that there's some wiggle room. Got a couple of aprons. You got a luxury tax. Certainly a billionaire with a lot of different income streams from sports and other things could certainly afford to go over into an apron or two. But they're not going to want to. Stan Kroenke is going to look at the results of this year, and he is going to essentially say, you can cut payroll. You cannot incur more cost at the head coaching position because they'd have to pay Adelman and their next head coach. So you could save X number of dollars and still get bounced in the first round. The regression, like really think of the worst case scenario next year for the Denver Nuggets. Allow your mind to wander in that direction. If they have Nikola Jokic, what's the worst you think they'll do? The play-in? And even if it was the play-in, wouldn't you take Nikola Jokic, a team that has Nikola Jokic, to get out of the play-in? That's the scary thing. That's how Stan Kroenke's looking at it. With just Nikola Jokic, we're a playoff team. We saw that when Jamal Murray was hurt. Why do I have to spend this much to just get bounced in the first round when I can spend, and my fingers are close together, for those of you listening on radio, this much and get the same result? Part of the reason why David Adelman is keeping his job is because he's cheap. Nobody's going to admit it. That's part of the reason. Not saying it's even the number one reason, but it's part of it. Now, Shams Charania did go on to say that they will be making and taking calls on everybody else on the roster, which is a bit of good news. But I legitimately wonder if this team, trading Michael Porter is one thing. Trading Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray, those are tougher decisions. There's going to be a lot of sad people if Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray are traded. Do they have the stomach for making those moves, knowing that if they get the right players back, players that get to the rim and players that keep other players from getting to the rim, that the Nuggets will ultimately be better off long-term and better off for the postseason? I don't know if they have the stomach for that. And I could see a world where at the end of free agency and the offseason, that the Denver Nuggets say something to the effect of, we just value our players too much to give them away. And it is one of the biggest mistakes that front offices make, overvaluing the pieces that you have. This team as a whole does not work and will not work. Simply letting Peyton Watson go or Cam Johnson go so you could sign Peyton Watson, that doesn't change anything. If this team doesn't make a significant move, next year's not going to go any better. They're not winning a championship with this group of players. Just not. Nuggets can't overvalue these guys. It's good to hear that their minds are opened up and they're looking at everything, but you got to pull the trigger. You got to go all the way through, or else it doesn't do you any good. Ray and I have been exchanging mock trades, arguing with each other about mock trades for all day today. Doesn't do a lot of good if the trade isn't actually consummated. Ben Tenzer and John Wallace can do what Ray and I did all day for weeks on end. That's part of their job. But they got to deliver results. And they did deliver a result last year with Michael Porter. This is a step up. This is more. Are they willing to do that? And are they able to identify what they truly need in a trade to make this team, remake this team in the right way, so maybe they can give Nikola Jokic another shot at winning a title? Be a very interesting offseason. Notice I didn't say fun. Just said interesting. Story number 3 quickly is the Colorado Springs Switchbacks again showing that there's a different vibe around this team. There is a complete lack of fear. There is no situation they go into that they feel like they are overmatched. You've seen it with the 2 matches against MLS teams recently, and we saw it on Saturday, and the previous Saturday for that matter, going into places that have not been kind to the Switchbacks historically and coming away with good results. The 1-0 win against Phoenix a week ago, and then this past Saturday getting a 3-3 draw against San Antonio, and the way they got the draw. Because there was a long stretch of that, or not long stretch. There was about a 3-minute stretch where this was going to be disaster. Shot from outside the 18, bounces, deflects off of a Switchbacks player past Christian Herrera to make it 3-2. That would have been a disaster finish. That's the type of results that the Switchbacks were getting early in the season. The Switchbacks, as they are currently playing, go right back down the field and answer. And they put enough pressure on the best defensive team in the USL Championship to get them to make an egregious mistake and put a ball into the back of their own net. Born out of the pressure, born out of the resiliency of this club. It's not all 3 points. That's what they went down to San Antonio for. But that's a heck of a point. And there aren't many stadiums that the Switchbacks are going to go into this season that have been more of a house of horrors than that one. Especially Widener Field. They're comfortable at Widener Field. And that's where they'll be Friday night against Orange County, who just so happens to be second in the Western Conference behind San Antonio. 719-247-1313. Take your thoughts on the 3 stories that are driving the show. More Drive Time Sports right after this. Was just talking about the result Switchbacks FC got on Saturday. They'll be home actually for the next 2 weeks. The Switchbacks will be at Widener Field. First up, Orange County SC on Friday night, 7 o'clock. It is Galactic Night, presented by D1. You can get your tickets at switchbacksfc.com. Let me Ray, I'll just tell you, I love Ray, but he's been bothering me all day with these trade things. So, Ray, I'm going to give you the floor. Okay. I want your most favorite mock Nuggets trade that you have seen on social media over the last few days. I want the best one, not with the butterfly effect of what the Nuggets are going to have to do to compensate. I'm just saying a one-off in a vacuum trade that you love, and you're like, if the Nuggets do that, I'm good. What is it?
Cam Johnson, Christian Brown, and a pick swap for KD.
You very much like the idea of KD. I think that's one. Now, look, that's one where I say what the Nuggets are giving up, I'm good.
Yeah.
Like, I get that. I just feel like with KD, there's a little bit of volatility with him that I don't love.
Mm-hmm.
And, but if you're keeping, I guess as a one-off trade, that's not bad. That's not a bad one. It wouldn't be my first choice there. But you can't argue with what they're giving up. A pick swap. But here's the thing I would worry about. You do the pick swap, and you're talking about this year pick swap, correct?
Yeah.
That's it. Then you don't have any draft capital.
Okay.
And that's the other but you don't. So that's why I'm saying, do you want to use but I guess it's giving the Nuggets a better pick. Right? Because the Nuggets had a better record than Houston.
Yeah, that's true. I was thinking playoff. Yeah, you're right. They would be a better pick.
So the Nuggets would get, let's go through this. And I hate to be this guy. Let's look at this through the lens of reality. So the Nuggets are getting the best player in the deal and the best draft pick in the deal.
Would you say, I mean, you would put KD over Jamal right now?
Oh, wait, did you say Jamal Murray?
No, you're right. I did Cam and Christian. Yeah, you're right.
Cam Johnson and Christian Brown.
Yeah, I was looking at
the lesser of the two picks for the KD. And yeah, I think that one might be an okay. We'll put that in the maybe pile. But that seems a bit far-fetched.
Okay, how about Murray and Zeke go to Atlanta. Nuggets receive Alexander Walker, Dyson Daniels, and Kispert.
I don't like that trade. I love it. I love that trade.
Yeah.
Dyson Daniels is one of the best on-ball defenders that we have in the league. Be a perfect head of the snake, so to speak, when it comes to the Nuggets defense. You would keep Aaron Gordon under that. We would not have to talk about Zeke Naji anymore. You got depth out of it.
I mean, Alexander Walker.
And you would, yeah, I love that even more. You'd have Daniels, defender, Walker, three-point shooter and defender, a true 3-and-D. You'd keep Aaron Gordon. You'd have to figure out one other spot, and then you'd have Nikola Jokic.
Or it says, Richardson?
Zachary Richardson.
Yeah, Richardson.
That's tricky. He intrigues me. He was the top pick a couple years ago. Can't get any run. That is a red flag.
Okay.
For me. Like the Avalanche have a propensity to do this. Valeri Nichushkin, Andre Burakovsky. They have been able to take these guys who have disappointed elsewhere and build them up. I don't know that the Nuggets have that same reputation that David Adelman has that same reputation Jared Bednar does. I probably stay away from Riche. I think that Daniels and Walker, and then Kispert's money, because Kispert got a big deal from Washington before he got traded, right? And he was in the McCollum deal. So that's to make money work, although that would be giving the Nuggets a depth piece. That one's better than the KD one.
Okay, one more.
I would put that. One more.
Okay. I say Toronto receives Murray and AG or Cam. I would say Cam. Denver receives Barnes and Quickly.
Yeah, I'm not giving up Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray for Emmanuel Quickly and Scotty Barnes.
Murray and Cam.
Yeah. I think they might break Darko's heart. Darko, the head coach of the Raptors, said Scotty Barnes is going to be the face of this league. You would break his heart. But I like Scotty Barnes a lot, and I've thrown out last offseason. I threw out Emmanuel Quigley. He's had some injury concerns. I guess that would be the downside of him, but I like the Washington one better. Washington one's number one.
Atlanta, you mean?
Or I'm sorry, Atlanta. I was thinking Kispert, Washington.
Right.
Yes, Atlanta. Then the Toronto one. Then the Houston one.
Okay.
How about Jaylen Brown?
So the one I saw was Jamal, AG, Big Val, Derek White, and Jaylen Brown.
I do that deal, wouldn't you?
I think so.
I think I do that. Aaron Gordon and Jamal Murray in the same trade feels...
That's a shakeup. Like, that's a...
Right, but it feels like a lot to give up, but you're getting Derek White and Jaylen Brown?
Mm-hmm.
What else would you be getting?
That's it. That's the one I saw.
No.
Would you have
to? No. I would trade Jamal Murray for Jaylen Brown.
So you?
How about Jaylen Brown and Peyton Pritchard?
No Derek White.
Or Derek White and Jaylen Brown for Jamal Murray, but I don't think the Boston Celtics are going to do that.
Okay, just one more for fun. All right, Clippers.
Just 5 more. Give me all of them.
Aaron Gordon, Cam Johnson, CB, Christian Brown. Nuggets get Kawhi.
Nope. Come on. You knew I was going to do that. Why would you even... No.
Kawhi, Bogey, and Yannick.
Bogdanovich.
Yeah.
And who's the third guy?
Yannick. It's
not a just a filler to make the money work.
Yeah.
Kawhi and Bogdanovich. I like Bogdanovich.
Yeah, I think you don't have to give up.
Can you get? But who would you?
Cam for?
Nah, I'd rather have Cam Johnson.
Okay.
So that one doesn't work. One more since you screwed that one up. I'm not going to take Kawhi.
Okay. This one we talked about real quick. Portland receives Zeke Naji and the 2026 first round pick. Nuggets receive Drew Holiday.
I mean, yeah, I would because I would do that one because you would take Jamal Murray off the ball.
Yeah,
Drew Holiday would be your point of attack. You'd still have Aaron Gordon. You could banish Christian Brown to the shadow realm, and you don't have to see him. No, he'd be coming off the bench, which he was better at.
Yeah,
that would more suited him. I liked Christian Brown in the title run.
Yeah, no, when he was that he was that little clean cut.
Drew Holiday and I don't care about his aesthetics. I'm just saying the role he had and what he was asked to do.
I understand, but when he was that clean cut, he was a demon, like we say.
Right.
He was really on it.
I don't say that. You say that. You say demon. No, I like that one too. But here's the thing. because we had many discussions last offseason, but that last offseason, Aaron Gordon wasn't part of the equation.
No.
Right? So now I think if you're on social media and you're seeing all of these trade ideas getting thrown around, I think there's a lot of them where you go, ooh, I like that. I like that. Well, the reason is because your mind is opened. Because you're saying now it's not, I really don't want to part with Jamal Murray, and I really don't want to part with Aaron Gordon, and Christian Brown I really like. And now it's like part of it's the perception of certain players that has changed, right? Cam Johnson, although give him all the credit for what he did in Game 6, it's kind of an up and down year for him, right?
Yeah.
So it's not like he's engendered a lot of belief in him. So it's like now all these options are on the table, and it's amazing what you can cook up and say, wow, that's a trade that can really remake the Nuggets for the better. But before it was, and even when I was talking about Jamal Murray, people didn't want to trade Jamal Murray. And now that everybody is involved, yes, there are still players you don't want to give up. I'd be okay if Jamal Murray gets traded and Aaron Gordon doesn't, as long as the Nuggets are remaking this team. And I said, if you fire Adelman and you trade Jamal Murray, then you're really remaking the identity of this team. I don't want to give up Aaron Gordon. I don't want to dump him for nothing. But if Aaron Gordon is what's going to get you what you need, then you have to consider it. That's why you're getting all these great options where you're like, that's great, because nobody's holding anybody back except Nikola Jokic.
And I think that this goes with what you're saying is now everything is throw everything at the wall, see what sticks. But 3 months down the road, when the emotion is taken out of the first round loss, and where people are thinking not more, blow it up and let's see what happens, do these trades still?
Yeah, but they're not. But the thing is, the Nuggets aren't going to blow it up. They never were going to.
Yeah.
And that's why I said on Friday that if you fire Adelman and you trade Jamal Murray, not for nothing, you get equal value. You get back multiple players that can help you. You are remaking your team. I don't think I am even though I would say everybody outside of Nikola Jokic, I could find reasons why the Nuggets should move on with them. The reality is they're not going to be able to do that. Okay, right now, it's really the most realistic players that they're not going to have on the roster are Jonas Valanciunas and either Cam Johnson or Peyton Watson. Right? We know that they're probably not going to have two of those three players as long as, one of those two players is Jonas Valanciunas, because we know he's not going to be back. But that's not remaking the team, and you're not adding anybody. You're simply retaining. So that's why I say it's not realistic to think that the Nuggets are going to ship off Cam Johnson for Kevin Durant and Jamal Murray for Dyson Daniels and the other players from Atlanta, and they're going to trade Aaron Gordon for Jaylen Brown. Like, that's not realistic because it just isn't. But that's why I say, how can you affect the most change with this team? In terms of changing fundamentally what your identity is, and also giving up something of value to get value in return. That's where I land on Jamal Murray. I just don't think you're going to get a lot for Cam Johnson. You're not going to get a lot. You're going to get nothing for Christian Brown. They're going to hang up the phone on you. Right now, Christian Brown doesn't even get the same trade value as Jackie Moon gave up for Woody Harrelson's character in Semi-Pro. Like, you can't get anything for him.
Right.
So this team is coming back with a lot of players that you remember them for Game 6. Mm-hmm. But how can you affect change? How can you bring in what is necessary? And that's where I say it really comes down to Aaron Gordon or Jamal Murray.
Okay, I'm going to throw one. We talked about this one real quick.
Okay.
Jamal for Kyrie and maybe another young player and a pick swap this year.
If the coach wasn't David Adelman, If the coach wasn't David Adelman, then I say this about Kevin Durant too. Like, you're going to bring in these guys that can be a little volatile, and I just don't know that David Adelman is the right leader of the team to keep Kyrie from, flaking and I like Kyrie, and when he's healthy as a basketball player, he's awesome. Kevin Durant, I think, still has something to give, a lot to give as a scorer. But I understand that the Nuggets need a cultural reset in many ways. But the culture that Kyrie and Kevin Durant have been associated with recently is not the kind of culture I want to swap out the Nuggets culture for. So if there was a stronger hand as a head coach, like a Tom Thibodeau or a Steve Kerr, then I think it opens more of those options of guys who have maybe, and I don't know that Kyrie has burned his bridge in Dallas necessarily, but just guys who have a history of not being the easiest players to coach.
Mm-hmm.
I just don't think Adelman is a strong enough leader to bring in Kevin Durant or to bring in Kyrie Irving.
Because
basketball wise, I could see where you're going.
I think you're right. I think I have to start thinking more outside of the basketball, because it looked like Adelman couldn't even get his team to play with more heart in Game 6.
They didn't want it. The bottom line is, without using too incendiary of language, the bottom line is the Denver Nuggets did not want to win this series more than Minnesota did.
Mm-hmm. No,
okay, you could take it in a more dramatic way. You could be more critical. You could really trash on the Denver Nuggets by using different words. But essentially, it was just the fact that they didn't want to win as much as Minnesota did. And that in a close, contentious series, that's what ultimately made the difference. So I'm sure plenty more mock trades are going to be coming out over the coming weeks. But you have to consider these trades, at least in some part, knowing that David Adelman is going to remain the head coach of the Denver Nuggets, as much as you may not like that. 709-24-7-1313, back after this. The impending snowstorm in the greater Denver area is just messing with our entire lives. One, the Rockies are playing right now instead of at 6:40 tonight against the Mets. They moved this game up. Rockies in the bottom of the eighth, trailing 4-2 against a Mets team that I don't know if they won a baseball game this year. Not sure. But now for tomorrow night's game 2 with the Avalanche, no Avs alley. So if you were thinking about heading up there and sitting outside of Ball Arena to be a part of that crowd, which looked amazing last night, they're not going to have it. So that means the next time, unless you're in the building, you got to wait till game 5 if there is a game 5 for that. Or there's another option here, and you don't even have to go up to Denver to do it. The Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive. $3.50 pints. Coors Light, Coors Banquet, Miller Lite, Mountain Time. Great place to watch the games. They got one big, huge TV and a lot of big TVs surrounding the bar, and then just a really cool place. So if you haven't had a chance to check out the Brass Tap on Bass Pro Drive, tomorrow night, be good. 6 o'clock will be the puck drop for game 2. Just a note on that, even though the game is being played in Denver in the Mountain Time Zone, they're still starting it at 6 o'clock, which I am the only person, and I mean it, the only person that has a problem with that. Ray, you don't have a problem with 6 o'clock. You like 6 o'clock.
I love 6 o'clock.
I hate 6 o'clock.
Oh, of course.
Because it means I'm done with this show. And also I got other stuff to do. I like this. Like, look, I will complain about all the late nights. I do that. But I would much rather games get going at 7:30, 8 o'clock. I know I'm weird in that. I'm all alone on my own little island. I don't like the 6 o'clock puck drop. Give me or even last night was 7.
Mm-hmm.
It just feels weird for a game to start for an Avs or Nuggets game to start before 7 o'clock. It just feels weird to me. But tomorrow night's going to be 6 o'clock at Ball Arena. Stay warm and toasty while you're at it. One thing, and I'll get more into this tomorrow as we really get into the preview of game 2. I think Jared Bednar needs to put the third line back. He moved Gabriel Landeskog off the third line. I want him back on the third line with Kadri and Nick Waugh. That would be my one adjustment. I don't know that you have to go to Blackwood. I'm just saying this would be the time. If you're going to go to Blackwood, if you're going to give him a look, if you're Jared Bednar, tomorrow night's the night to do it. I'm not saying I'm a proponent of it, though. Putting Gabriel Landeskog back on the third line. Put him back with Nazem Kadri and Nick Waugh. I like that a little bit better. So we'll see. He had Colton and Nelson and Nichushkin on the second line. No, what am I talking about? He had Landeskog, Nichushkin, and Nelson on the second line and had Ross Colton on the third line. I don't like it. Put it back. So that's one adjustment I could see the Avs making. The other one, it's just going to be a natural thing. When Josh Manson is healthy, that blue line, everyone will be put back in their proper place, and the right pairings will be out there. But you got to wait on that. No update on Josh Manson, as you might expect. Cale Makar's all good, so that's nice to hear if you're an Avs fan. But we'll talk more about game 2 tomorrow. We got all tomorrow to get into that one. I don't know if you're like out on the NBA. Anthony Edwards is playing tonight. Which makes you wonder. Nah, he would have been out for game 7. That was too long ago. Well, no, because it would have been, well, it would have been game 7 Saturday. Today's Monday. Think Anthony Edwards would have played game 7?
Yeah.
I think he would have. See, so it's not all bad. They would have lost game 7 anyway.
At home. So which one do you really want?
Well, wait a minute. Remind me what happened 2 years ago?
Oh, yeah.
Where were the Nuggets for game 7 against the Minnesota Timberwolves?
At home.
Okay. All right.
So I'm just saying, would you want a history repeater?
Are you making the case as better that they bowed out in 100 games?
I'm saying if it was gonna happen, I would rather it happen
on the road in game 6.
on the road. Yeah.
Okay. I still think San Antonio's win that series.
Oh yeah.
Yeah.
I don't think there's a doubt about that. Ant's coming in, but still.
The thing is, the Timberwolves are fueled on hate. That's how they operate. And how can you hate Wemby? So the Wolves have no edge on San Antonio.
It's so funny seeing like Jaden McDaniels talk now. Like, oh yeah, no, I respect everybody, man. They have great game. They have good defense.
Oh, is he?
Yeah,
hyping up. The
like
Spurs?
I love.
That's funny.
And it's totally different.
That's funny. Yeah, it is just the Nuggets. Yep, that is true. In the NHL, which is more what I am focused on. In fact, there's a game already underway. Ray, I'm gonna beat you to it. What's the Hurricanes?
2-1 Flyers.
Oh. Because Carolina made light work of Philly in game 1. Okay.
It's the end of the first.
All right. The later game tonight may be the one that you are more interested in because it is the other Western Conference semifinal, Vegas and Anaheim. I will find any reason to bring up how ludicrous this playoff format is, the playoff seeding format is in the NHL. The fact that the Avs have to play the Wild and Vegas gets Anaheim is bordering on criminal. And here's the other thing from last night. Don't you get a feeling I was already feeling this way going into the series, although I am very intrigued by Vegas, but didn't have a feel as you're just watching. I know it's not the type of game that you expected, but you're seeing all the skill and all the talent on display. Doesn't it feel like the winner of this series is going to win the Stanley Cup? Kind of getting that feeling. I'm still intrigued by Vegas. I think Vegas might have been bounced if they were playing a team with a little bit more playoff experience and playoff know-how in Utah. Utah had Vegas dead to rights multiple times in that series and let them off the hook. But I'm still intrigued by Torts and Carter Hart and obviously Mitch Marner, of all people, popped up in a decisive game for the Vegas Golden Knights. Ouch, Toronto fans. But Anaheim should be playing Colorado, and Vegas and Minnesota should be playing each other, and away we go from there. But that's not the way that this is set up. Minnesota has more of a gripe than even Colorado does, of course, because they had to go through Dallas first. But it's just dumb. At some point, the wheels are going to fall off of Anaheim. I think Anaheim ran into the end of, Edmonton is in crisis. And they're going to continue to be in crisis. Anaheim, I wonder if there's a little, we're just happy to be here, and Vegas dispatches them easily. We'll see. Enjoy whatever you may be watching tonight. Appreciate your patronage and the interaction. And we'll do it all over again. Get deep into our preview of Game 2 between the Avs and the Wild tomorrow at 3 right here on Extra Sports 1300 and KVOR.